Nitish Kumar has finally broken his uneasy alliance with the Bharatiya Janata Party. Now, he has joined hands with his arch rivals, Tejasvi Yadav of the RJD and with the Congress in Bihar. He, of course, continues to remain Chief Minister. There's no doubt about that. But his divorce with the BJP is as much about Bihar in 2022 as it is about India in 2024. Will this new mahagathbandhan that has come together in Bihar have any implications for the 2024 very crucial general elections? I'm joined by Sukumar Ranganathan, as always, the Hindustan Times editor-in-chief. And Sukumar, I want us to just recall our last conversation, our last episode. We were talking about Maharashtra and we were talking about the BJP and its uneasy relationship with its various alliance partners. Now, given what has happened with Nitish, what's your take on what's flowing out?
For many years now, 8 to be exact, ever since the new BJP took over in 2014, there has been a perception that the party, given the fact that it is the undisputed and clear national political hegemon now, there is no other party which is as dominant as it is, often grows at the expense of its allies.
Okay.
Now, theoretically speaking, this is not unique. It's something that happens when you have a really strong party which has a very strong leader, and there is no debating the fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the most popular political leader in this country, and by a huge distance, right? And this appeal cuts across regions. It's an appeal that cuts across gender. It's an appeal that cuts across caste groups, and so. Clearly, it's not surprising that the BJP grows at the expense of other parties, including its allies. Now, the question is, are the allies happy about this? Not really. Do they have an option? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But the historical evidence is too stark to ignore. You look at the Shiromani Akali Dal and you look at the Shiv Sena. I think we talked about the fact that in 2019, the Shiv Sena did not want to play second fiddle to the BJP in the government, which forced the split and forced the formation of the MVA, simply because they saw their footprint shrinking, right? AIDMK, right? I mean, no longer the force it once was, and I think we can safely predict that going forward it's going to become weaker, and that the BJP is going to start gaining perhaps at its expense. And same thing happened in Bihar. You look at Nitish, for instance, no longer the senior partner. The JDU was no longer the senior partner at the end of the last elections, was the junior partner. So the fact that Nitish became chief minister seemed like some sort of gift that was given to him by the BJP. Although to be fair, it should be acknowledged that even before that, the BJP strike rate in the Bihar Assembly elections was better than the JDU.
It's true.
Right? So Nitish is obviously worried about what is happening to the JDU, what is happening in Bihar. And there were a lot of irritants, clearly, right? I mean, one irritant was he continued to be irritated by what had happened with Chirag Paswan. The fact that I don't think he ever got it completely out of his head that the BJP was not behind it. Now, we don't know whether the BJP was behind it or not. But in his mind, I think he kept thinking that, this guy, constituent of the NDA, has been put up against me. And it is a fact that Chirag Paswan's party played spoilsport in several constituencies, affecting the chances of the JDU candidates. So he was very upset about that. Cabinet formation, the fact that he was not given as many seats as he thought the JDU deserved on account of its strength in the Lok Sabha. So all of these sort of added up.
And largely also the basic, I think more than that, it was the ideology. They were functioning on different ideologies.
The ideology we will come to in a bit.
Yes.
Right? And then, of course, there was the flashpoint with the speaker. right? I mean, now he would have he would have thought that, like, I'm the chief minister, I want a new speaker, why can't we get one? And the BJP was refusing to budge on that. And like you said, the ideology, right? I mean, and deep down, when you come to the ideology, there is clearly the Mandal ideology, right? Which propelled backward class support based parties such as the JDU, the RJD, the Samajwadi Party to power. And for a long time, they were really a pretty dominant force, right? Mandal politics influenced who governed India. Might not have directly governed India, but had a strong role to play in who governed India till 2014, when it was replaced by the BJP and its own ideology. So, there is a clash of ideologies here. Increasingly becoming clear that Mandal parties, especially those that strongly depend for their support on a few dominant backward classes. And this is the problem with the Samajwadi Party, this is the problem with the RJD. Even when they perform out of their skin, which is exactly what the Samajwadi Party did in UP this time, right? I mean, if you look at theoretically the maximum vote share that the Samajwadi Party could have ever got in an election based on its traditional support base, they were up there. Still did not manage to
because the BJP perhaps is also playing in the same waters
because the non-dominant backward classes, the non-dominant Hindu backward classes and the scheduled castes have been consolidated by the BJP very successfully in UP. It is not something that has happened in Bihar. Perhaps because Nitish Kumar, as his EBC, as he's defined it, right? The extreme backward classes appeal, not huge enough to build a big base for himself, but huge enough to make a difference. And as one of our columnists points out, Nitish is hugely popular among women, but only when he contests as part of the non-RJD thing.
True.
The minute he allies with the RJD, there is no perceptible difference, according to our columnist Rahul Verma, between what happens between the support base from men and the support from women. So all these things make Bihar a little different. And of course, like you mentioned in your question, and I'm sure we'll come back to it, the impact on national politics.
I mean, let me just come to that straight away, and maybe we can go back to Bihar a little later. The prime ministerial ambitions, and that's one of the things that people are talking about. Nitish Kumar's prime ministerial ambitions, could that have also been a factor in dictating this decision?
Very good question, right? I mean, a lot of analysts have been saying he sees this as his last big opportunity, right? I mean,
he's
71, right? I mean, he sees it as his last big opportunity, and the opposition is looking for a face. He could be that face. I have an issue with this argument, simply that I don't think the BJP is losing in 2024. And I'm not basing this on anything else, just pure numbers and support base. And so I'm not convinced that his entry into the mix sort of makes the opposition stronger. In fact, I think the challenge now, it complicates matters more for the opposition, I would think, than it does for the BJP. Sure, the BJP will probably see a little loss in its number of votes that it gets in Bihar. But to really defeat the BJP in 2024, every constituent of this still to be united opposition, it's still not a united opposition, the still to be united opposition has to perform at the peak of their abilities.
And I don't see Mamata or
no, which means West Bengal should really the TMC should sweep West Bengal. Akhilesh should put up a significant fight in the Lok Sabha in UP, very different from the assembly, right? I mean, and the reason for this, I think we discussed this at one of the previous talks that we had, is that a Lok Sabha constituency, especially in Uttar Pradesh, large,
Right.
right? And so the numbers sort of balance out, and you clearly see the BJP coming on top. So it's easier for the other parties to win local elections. The more local an election, which means the smaller the constituency, it's easier for them to win it. Uh, but otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. And so I don't see this adding up in any way mathematically just yet. I could be wrong. We're just in 2022. By 2024, the equation might be very different.
And there's also the issue of the acceptance of Nitish Kumar as a possible
By
the likes of
by the
Mamta and
others, by the
Akhilesh,
others.
because that has always been a big bone
Yeah.
of contention.
And also, when we speak of 2024, at this point in time, I don't see any anti-incumbency factors against the current union government. Right? By 2012, for instance, it was already becoming clear that there were significant anti-incumbency factors against the UPA in its 8th year of power. The NDA is now in its 8th year of power, and you don't see that. And their delivery of what I would call first level benefits, right? Kind of things that should have been done in the 60s or maybe even before. Power, water,
Right.
roads, houses, continues to be very good, right? And I think that will still help them. So I'm not sure that this changes things for 2024 as far as the BJP is concerned. Probably complicates matters much more for the opposition. And like you said, what is going to be the acceptance of Nitish Kumar is, of course, senior in terms of age to almost everyone barring Sharad Pawar.
Correct.
Right? Because I'm not counting Mulayam because he's pretty much, yeah, and I'm not counting Lalu Prasad Yadav again because he's said to be very unwell. Wasn't even there when this big epochal event, at least from their perspective, happened in Bihar. So leave out people of that generation, and I think he is the senior most in the opposition, and maybe that could count for something. But I'm not sure seniority doesn't have more of a weightage than egos, right? I mean, and many of these regional satraps would like to see themselves as the face of the opposition.
All right. Let me just throw in one last question about Nitish Kumar himself. Very, very, very. It's a sort of it's a question that has been playing in my mind. I don't know how to word it, but I'm going to try. So there is this gentleman who is perhaps, as you pointed out, his last hurrah, his last opportunity to sort of make a mark, and yet, and we said that the BJP, sort of has a tendency to eat into its alliance partner's party, to weaken the alliance partner. But JDU as a party itself, there is no successor to Nitish Kumar. He's already in his 70s. He is now once again kicked the BJP to one side and come back with RJD. A couple of years ago, is the same Tejasvi Yadav he accused of corruption and walked out of that alliance. Where is Nitish? I mean, is this the beginning of the end for Nitish Kumar and JDU? That is what some analysts have been talking about, and probably get your perspective.
But that has got nothing to do with this particular development, right? I mean,
true.
If it is true, it would have held even had he been in power with the BJP.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't really change the fact that there is no visible successor to him in his party. But again, like I said, I refer to our columnist Rahul Verma, and he's got an interesting theory. He perhaps thinks that Tejasvi could inherit the legacies of both Nitish and his father. Maybe he could, and please remember, Tejasvi Yadav is just 32. So I think a lot of analysts are not looking at him in this whole equation, and he could be a significant face in the opposition going forward. Right? Not 2024, perhaps after that.
All right. Thank you so much, Sukumar. Thank you, viewers, for watching this broadcast. We hope we've been able to analyze and, sort of break down some of the developments that have been happening and its implications for 2024 and even beyond with Tejasvi Yadav. And hope that this is useful information for you. And we will keep coming back to you with more. Stay tuned to Hindustan Times.